Welcome to English Stories. Here, you'll improve your English by listening to real, clear stories, slowly told and easy to follow. Cleopatra was born more than 2,000 years ago, in 69 BCE, in the city of Alexandria, Egypt. She was a princess in the royal Ptolemaic family who had ruled Egypt for many generations. Her family came from Greece, but they ruled over the Egyptian people. Most of the Ptolemaic kings and queens did not speak the Egyptian language. They lived in palaces, spoke only Greek, and cared more about power than people. But Cleopatra was different from the start. From a very young age, Cleopatra showed that she was smart and curious. She asked questions all the time. She wanted to know how the world worked. The stars, the weather, the people, and even politics. She read books about science, history, and philosophy. She listened to teachers and never forgot what she learned. Most of all, she loved languages. Cleopatra learned to speak 9 languages fluently, including Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, and Latin. She was the first in her family to speak the language of the Egyptian people. This made her special. People respected her, even as a child. While other children in the palace played, Cleopatra studied. Her father, King Ptolemy XII, noticed her intelligence. He began to talk with her about problems in the kingdom. He was not a strong ruler and often needed help from the Roman Empire. He also had many enemies in his own court. Cleopatra watched her father deal with these problems. She listened to how he spoke to Roman leaders. She saw how dangerous and confusing politics could be. But instead of being afraid, she wanted to learn more. Cleopatra also learned about the land of Egypt. She traveled with her father along the Nile River. She saw how people lived, worked, and grew food. She saw the temples, the desert, and the villages far from the city. Most members of the royal family stayed in the palace, but Cleopatra wanted to understand her people. She wanted to be a real queen, not just wear a crown. At this time, Egypt was in a difficult position. The Roman Empire was growing stronger. Rome had great armies, powerful leaders, and a deep interest in Egypt. Egypt had rich land and a strong economy, but it also had political problems. Many Egyptians did not trust their Greek rulers. They were tired of kings and queens who did not speak their language or care about their lives. Cleopatra understood this. She wanted to be different. She wanted to be a queen who listened. When Cleopatra was about 14, her father had to leave Egypt. He lost power and went to Rome for help. During this time, Cleopatra stayed behind. Even as a teenager, she helped manage the kingdom. People said she was calm, smart, and clear in her thinking. When her father returned with Roman support, he was thankful to her. He saw that Cleopatra could be a great leader one day. As she grew older, Cleopatra's education continued. She trained in public speaking, leadership, and decision-making. She learned how to understand people, their hopes, their fears, and their needs. This skill helped her not only in politics, but also in life. She did not want to rule with fear. She wanted to rule with respect and wisdom. Still, being part of the royal family was not easy. There was always competition, secrets, and danger. Cleopatra had brothers and sisters who wanted power too. Even within her own family, she had to be careful. One wrong step could lead to exile or even death. But Cleopatra learned to stay calm and observe. She used her knowledge to stay one step ahead. Cleopatra also understood that words had power. She practiced writing carefully. She spoke in different languages to different groups. She used the right tone and message for each situation. Later, this skill would help her win the support of powerful people, including Roman leaders. By the time she was a teenager, Cleopatra was already preparing for a difficult future. She knew she would face challenges from her family, from the people, and from Rome. But she was not afraid. She believed that her mind and her heart would guide her. One evening, Cleopatra stood alone in the palace library. The sun was setting over the city. She looked out the window and saw the sea. She knew that her life would not be simple, but she also knew that she had something special, a deep love for her people, a hunger for knowledge, and a gift for language. She whispered to herself, "I will not be forgotten. I will write my own story." That night, she continued reading as the stars appeared over Alexandria.
When Cleopatra was 18 years old, everything in her life changed. Her father, King Ptolemy XII, died. Before his death, he made a plan for the future of Egypt. He said that Cleopatra would become queen, but she would not rule alone. She had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old. This was a common tradition in Egypt. Brothers and sisters often ruled together. But in truth, the brother was too young to rule. Cleopatra had more experience, more knowledge, and more support. She was ready. At first, things went well. Cleopatra tried to work with her brother and his advisors. She appeared in public as a strong leader. She gave speeches, helped the people during hard times, and made decisions with care. The people liked her. They could see that she understood them. She spoke their language and listened to their needs. But not everyone was happy. The men who controlled her younger brother wanted more power. They believed a woman should not rule Egypt. They wanted Ptolemy to rule alone. So they began to push Cleopatra out. They spread lies about her. They told people she was too proud, too strong, and too dangerous. One day, the royal guard stopped letting her enter the palace. Her name was removed from public documents. It was clear she was no longer welcome. Cleopatra had lost her power. She had to leave Alexandria. Some rulers would have given up, but Cleopatra was not like most rulers. She went south to the desert, where she was safe. There she made a new plan. She did not cry or become weak. She stayed strong and calm. She still believed she was the true queen. Now she needed a way to take back her throne. While in exile, Cleopatra began to build an army. She asked for help from local leaders who were loyal to her father. She also used her money and gold to pay soldiers. Slowly, she built a group of followers who believed in her. She sent letters, gave promises, and used her skills to win support. At the same time, something important was happening in the Roman world. Julius Caesar, one of the most powerful men in Rome, arrived in Egypt. He came to settle a fight between Cleopatra and her brother. Rome cared deeply about Egypt, and Caesar wanted peace in the region. This was Cleopatra's chance. She had to meet Caesar and speak with him. But she could not walk into the palace freely. She needed a plan. One night, Cleopatra came up with a clever idea. She wrapped herself in a large carpet and asked a servant to carry her into the palace. No one stopped the servant. They thought it was just a gift. Inside, the servant opened the carpet, and there was Cleopatra, standing tall, proud, and calm in front of Caesar. Caesar was surprised, but he was also impressed. Cleopatra spoke to him with clear words. She explained the truth about her brother, the lies told about her, and her dreams for Egypt. She did not beg. She did not cry. She used reason and facts. She used her voice, and she used her eyes. Caesar listened. He saw something powerful in her, not just beauty, but strength and wisdom. That night, Caesar decided to support her, but it would not be easy. Cleopatra's brother and his army did not want her back. A war began in the city. Caesar and Cleopatra's small forces fought hard. Streets burned. The library of Alexandria caught fire. But in the end, they won. Cleopatra was queen again. Soon after, Cleopatra's brother died in battle. According to Egyptian law, she needed a new co-ruler. So she married another younger brother, Ptolemy XIV. But everyone knew Cleopatra ruled alone. She was now the true leader of Egypt. After the war, Cleopatra wanted to bring peace and strength to her kingdom. She began rebuilding Alexandria. She reopened schools, helped farmers, and made trade stronger. She used Roman support to keep enemies away. And she had a child, a son named Caesarion. Many believed the boy was Caesar's son. Cleopatra hoped he might one day rule both Egypt and Rome. Even with her throne restored, Cleopatra never forgot how quickly power could be taken away. She worked hard every day. She spoke with teachers, generals, and workers. She gave time to her people. She also watched Rome carefully. Caesar was still her ally, but Rome was full of ambition and danger. Cleopatra needed to stay wise. One late evening, Cleopatra sat alone in the palace. A soft wind moved through the window. She looked at a map of Egypt and Rome. She thought of her future. She had returned to power, but many challenges were still ahead. Yet she smiled. She remembered how she had lost everything and how she had come back.
Cleopatra knew that staying in power was not enough. She had to protect her position. Egypt was still weak in the eyes of Rome. Many Roman leaders believed they could control Egypt, but Cleopatra had other ideas. She wanted Egypt to stay free. She believed that strong minds and strong voices could do more than armies. Julius Caesar had helped her win back her throne. Now he returned to Rome. But Cleopatra did not stay behind. She decided to follow him to the heart of the empire. Many in Egypt were surprised. A queen traveling to Rome was not common. But Cleopatra was not afraid of being different. When she arrived in Rome, people were shocked. They had never seen anyone like her. She wore beautiful clothes, walked with pride, and spoke with power. She brought her son Caesarion with her. She lived in a villa near Caesar's home, not far from the center of the city. Romans talked about her day and night. Some admired her. Others felt nervous. They saw her as a threat. Cleopatra did not try to act like a Roman. She stayed true to her culture. She brought Egyptian art, music, and customs. She believed that her identity was something to be proud of. She spoke many languages, including Latin, but she preferred to speak as herself. Caesar respected her for this. He listened to her ideas and asked for her opinions. She spoke not only as a queen, but as a partner in thought. During this time, Caesar made big changes in Rome. He gave land to poor people, changed laws, and made himself more powerful. Some people loved him. Others feared him. They thought he wanted to become king, and Rome had no kings. Then, In 44 BCE, something terrible happened. Julius Caesar was killed by a group of Roman senators. They attacked him in public, hoping to save the Roman Republic. The news reached Cleopatra quickly. She was heartbroken, but she also knew that her position in Rome was now dangerous. Without Caesar, she had no support. She left the city quietly, returning to Alexandria with her son. Back in Egypt, Cleopatra faced new problems. Her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, died. Some believe she poisoned him. She then made Caesarion her co-ruler, even though he was just a child. Cleopatra was again alone in power. Rome was once more in chaos. Leaders fought each other for control. Cleopatra watched and waited. A few years later, another powerful Roman came to Egypt. His name was Mark Antony. He was a general and one of Caesar's closest friends. After Caesar's death, Antony became one of the rulers of Rome. He was smart, strong, and loved action. But he also needed help. He wanted money and ships for a war he planned to fight. Cleopatra saw an opportunity. She met Antony in her own way, with style, beauty, and meaning. She arrived to see him on a golden boat, dressed as the goddess Isis. People on the river stopped to watch. Music played, and sweet smells filled the air. Antony was amazed, but Cleopatra was not only showing beauty, she was sending a message. She wanted Antony to understand her power, her culture, and her intelligence. They began to spend time together. They talked for hours about government, history, and dreams. Antony soon fell in love with her, not just with her looks, but with her spirit. Cleopatra offered him support. She gave him money and ships. In return, Antony gave her land and respect. Their connection grew stronger. They became partners in both life and politics. Antony returned to Rome for a time, but soon he came back to Egypt. This time, he stayed. Cleopatra and Antony began living together. They had 3 children. They ruled from Alexandria, not Rome. Many Romans were angry. They believed Antony had forgotten his country. They believed Cleopatra was controlling him. One Roman leader, Octavian, hated their power. He was Caesar's adopted son and Antony's rival. He used the Roman people's fear to turn them against Antony and Cleopatra. He told lies about them. He said Cleopatra wanted to take Rome. He said she was a danger to peace. Cleopatra knew the situation was growing worse, but she also knew she could not step back. She had worked too hard to give up. She believed that Egypt's future depended on her. With Antony at her side, she prepared for war. Together, they would face Octavian. One warm evening, Cleopatra and Antony stood on a balcony in the palace. The stars were bright above them. They looked out at the sea. "Rome is coming," Antony said. Cleopatra nodded. "Then we must be ready," she answered. She had faced many dangers before. She had survived exile, lies, and loss. She would face this too.
War was coming, and Cleopatra knew time was short. Octavian, the Roman leader, wanted full control of Rome, and he saw Antony and Cleopatra as obstacles. He told the Roman people that Cleopatra had taken Antony's mind and power. He said she was a foreign queen trying to rule over Rome. These were lies, but they worked. The Roman Senate gave Octavian permission to go to war. Cleopatra and Antony gathered their forces. They had ships, soldiers, and money, but they were fighting the greatest power in the world. Octavian's army was large, trained, and ready. Still, Cleopatra believed they had a chance. She trusted in her mind, in Antony's strength, and in the will to fight for their future. In 31 BCE, the two sides met in a great sea battle near a place called Actium. Cleopatra and Antony led their ships into the fight. At first, they held strong, but Octavian's forces were better prepared. The battle turned against them. Some of their men ran, others were killed. In the middle of the chaos, Cleopatra's ship turned and sailed away. Antony followed her. Many believe Cleopatra had a plan. She knew the battle was lost, but she wanted to save her people. She did not want to die at sea. Others say she panicked. History is not clear, but what is clear is this: the battle was over. Octavian had won. After the battle, Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt. They still had power in Alexandria, but it would not last. Octavian was coming, and he would not stop until he had them both. The mood in the palace changed. Once full of life and music, it now felt quiet and tense. Still, Cleopatra did not show fear. She began making plans. She sent letters to Octavian, hoping for peace. She offered him money, gifts, even her crown, if he would let her children rule Egypt in the future. But Octavian wanted more. He wanted Egypt, and he wanted Cleopatra to come to Rome as a prisoner. Cleopatra refused. She would never be shown in chains. Antony was heartbroken. He had lost his army, his power, and now his hope. He believed Cleopatra had died, though it was not true. In despair, he fell on his sword. He did not die at once. He was taken to Cleopatra, bleeding and weak. She held him in her arms. He died looking into her eyes. He said, "Do not be afraid of defeat. Trust yourself." Cleopatra was alone again. Octavian soon entered Alexandria. He sent guards to take her, but Cleopatra was ready. She dressed in her royal clothes, wore her crown, and sat on her golden throne. She wanted Octavian to see her as a queen, not a prisoner. He entered the room, but said little. He told his guards to watch her. He planned to take her back to Rome in chains. Cleopatra had other plans. She did not want to be a prize in Rome's games. She wanted to choose her own end. She sent a message asking for a basket of figs to be brought to her. Hidden inside, it is said, was a small snake, a cobra, a symbol of Egyptian royalty. The snake's bite was deadly. She used it to take her own life. When the guards returned, it was too late. Cleopatra lay still, peaceful, her face calm. She had lived as a queen and died as one. She had chosen her fate. Octavian was surprised and angry, but he knew Cleopatra's name would live on. He took her children to Rome, but he left her memory behind in Egypt. Cleopatra was the last ruler of the Ptolemaic line. After her death, Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. Even after so many years, people still talk about Cleopatra. Some remember her beauty, others her love stories. But those who study her closely know the truth. She was more than beauty. She was a leader, a thinker, and a woman of great strength. She ruled in a time when women were not meant to rule. She spoke many languages, understood politics, and stood against the strongest empire of her time. She made mistakes, yes, but she also made history. One evening, long after her death, the people of Alexandria lit candles by the river. They told stories of their queen who spoke to them in their own language, the queen who loved Egypt, the queen who never gave up.
After Cleopatra's death, Egypt changed forever. The land she loved, ruled, and fought for became a Roman province. The people of Egypt now answered to Rome. Their last queen was gone, but her story was just beginning to grow. Across the ancient world, people spoke her name. Some called her dangerous, others called her wise. Some told lies, but many remembered her as a woman who never feared power and never turned away from challenge. Cleopatra's children faced a different life. Octavian, now known as Augustus, took them to Rome. He raised them in his sister's house. Cleopatra's son, Caesarion, was seen as a threat because he was the child of Julius Caesar. To protect his rule, Augustus had the boy killed. Cleopatra's dream that Caesarion would one day rule was over. Her 3 children with Mark Antony, Alexander Helios, Cleopatra Selene, and Ptolemy Philadelphus were kept alive. They were treated with care, but they were no longer royal. Cleopatra Selene grew up and later became a queen in North Africa. Through her, Cleopatra's bloodline continued, though far from Egypt. In Rome, poets and historians began to write about Cleopatra. Some wrote terrible things. They said she used magic to control men. They said she was a danger to peace. These were lies made to protect Roman pride. They did not want to admit that a woman from Egypt had once stood so close to the heart of Roman power. But over time, new voices began to rise. People read the old stories and asked questions. Who was Cleopatra really? Why did she study so many languages? Why did she fight so hard to protect her country? Scholars looked again and saw a different picture. They saw a girl who studied when others played, a teenager who ruled when others hid, a queen who learned from failure, and a leader who dared to meet the greatest rulers of her time as an equal. She was not perfect. She made choices that led to war and loss, but she also made choices that showed courage, skill, and love for her people. In modern times, Cleopatra became a symbol. For some, she represents power and beauty. For others, she represents intelligence and leadership. For many women, she stands as proof that history is not only made by men. Cleopatra lived in a world where women were often pushed aside. Yet she rose. She ruled. She spoke many languages. She built ships. She read books. She made alliances. She loved. And when the time came, she chose her own ending. Today, Cleopatra's image appears in films, books, and art. But the real Cleopatra was more than gold, silk, and stories of love. She was a person who understood the world. She read the signs of change and tried to shape her country's future. She wanted Egypt to remain strong, free, and proud. Her tomb has never been found. Some believe she was buried with Antony near Alexandria. Others say she lies deep beneath the sand, waiting to be discovered. But her memory remains alive. In classrooms and museums, students learn about her. In books, writers tell her story again and again. And in the hearts of many who study history, Cleopatra remains one of the most powerful figures of the ancient world. As we finish this story, think not only of her title, her beauty, or her death. Think of her mind. Think of her strength. Think of her courage to learn and lead in a world that did not make space for her. She did not wait for history to write her name. She wrote it herself. And that is why Cleopatra is still remembered, because she chose to live with purpose, to lead with wisdom, and to love her land until the very end.
Now that you've finished this story, let's review some important vocabulary and sentence patterns that can help you speak and write better English. Across all 5 parts, you learned keywords like curious, fluent, respect, throne, exile, support, custom, identity, threat, obstacle, despair, fate, pride, equal, and symbol. These words helped describe Cleopatra's life, her choices, and her legacy. You also practiced 4 important sentence structures. She wanted to, but, to show a goal and a challenge. Example,
She wanted to rule with kindness, but her enemies made it difficult. She had to, so she, to show a need and an action. Example, she had to escape the city, so she went into exile. She did not, but she, to show contrast in behavior or personality. Example, she did not act like a Roman, but she stayed true to her culture. She was not, but she, to show a deeper meaning beyond first impressions. Example, she was not perfect, but she showed great strength. These simple sentence forms can help you express clear and meaningful ideas in English. Now it's your turn. Think about Cleopatra's story. She lived long ago, but her life still teaches us something today. Discussion question. What part of Cleopatra's story did you find the most inspiring, and why? End of script. Thank you for listening.